Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, reviews of comics new and old, to history to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. The Claylist is back, Clayface 5. No ultimate Clayface, Basil Karlo from the Mud Pack is not Clayface 5. Basil Karlo was already a Clayface and then he just added some powers onto himself. So he's just modified, melodramatically trying to resurrect people with tap water Clayface. If none of that made sense to you, please check out our Mud Pack video, wherein all of the Clayfaces team up in one of the most glorious villain team-ups of all time. Card and link. At the end of that tale, Clayface 3, Preston Payne, and 4, Sandra Fuller, had found kindred spirit-style love and pieced out the Star of Life together outside of Gotham. But could they just be happy? No, they could not. Their joy, and hence also mine, was taken from them. This was during the Knightquest story arc, for no reason at all. Well, I mean, drama is a reason. What happened? Their child, Clayface 5, was abducted by a serial killer. You know you gotta stay tuned now for all of the 90s edge. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're still subscribed and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Join us in this comic book journey, experience all the Clayface and more. Help others find and enjoy the Claylist. Our fifth Clayface debuts in Batman Shadow of the Bat issue 27 in 1994. Physically, that is. Sandra reveals that she's pregnant to Preston in issue 26. So our story's gonna have to kick off there, because you know the lead up is part of any child story. No magic stork appearances here. Batman Shadow of the Bat was an ongoing series which ran from 1992 to 2000. It was another Batman book that tied into the continuity of the also running Detective Comics and Batman comics. But it was separate from the also running Legends of the Dark Knight, because most of those stories took place earlier in Batman's career. Batman everywhere. Issues 26 and 27 are occurring during the Knightquest storyline, which is part of the overarching time period where Bruce Wayne had taken a step back as Batman out of necessity because Bane broke his back, and his role was being filled by Jean-Paul Valley, aka Azrael. He proved to be a brutal and merciless and ultimately unstable Batman with a pointy techie bat suit, and Bruce would have to retake the mantle after his back got better and they would have an epic Batman off. Classic Batman versus new Batman. After retaking the mantle, he would also have to rebuild his image and public reputation because Valley had trashed that. It was very damaged. But before that, we had issue 26, which was tying into the plot where Jean-Paul Valley was looking for a serial killer called Abattoir, who was picking off his family members one by one. He was picking off his own family members, and he didn't care who got in the way or who he had to traumatize to do so. Issue 26, Creatures of Clay, Diary of Love, is written by Alan Grant, with art by Brett Blevins, and colors by Adrian Roy. So we have two people from over in the Mud Pack issues. Since Grant is also writing this, the portrayals of Payne and Fuller are going to remain consistent to that past story. So if one was reading / collecting all these Bat books for an extended period of time, this would feel familiar. Clayface 5's introduction is unique, in that it's an introduction that is purely for narrative prop purposes. Clayface 5 is the motivation for Clayfaces 4 and 3 to get involved in the action in the story, and little else. Our comic opens with the survivors of an abattoir attack getting group therapy from Dr. Leslie Tompkins. This is after Abattoir had hijacked a bus full of kids. Batman continues to search the city for Abattoir when suddenly he is set upon by Clayface 4 disguised as a gargoyle, who is thinking that Batman looks different, but that she actually owes a lot to Batman because he's indirectly responsible for how her and her husband Preston met. And she says she knows he's a good man at heart. Not this one though. She'd been in Bruce Wayne Batman's mind back in the Mud Pack. This is when she took the form of the superhero Looker, which is where she'd gotten telepathic powers. Because for those just jumping in, Clayface 4 can not only shapeshift but also retain the powers and abilities of the forms that she takes. She does not realize that this is a different Batman though. I thought I'd finish with killing. I didn't want to be this way ever again, but... What the devil is this? I've been through all Wayne's files. This monster doesn't fit any of them. I'm so sorry. I had to. As Sandra gets the upper hand, she transforms back into her main form to deal the final blow, and we're treated to entries from her diary detailing what happened to her in Preston post-Mud Pack. They found a cave for themselves and set out to form their own existence outside of Gotham, away from people, because people are the worst. But there is still a problem: Preston's condition. The pain he experiences if he does not transfer his excess protoplasm, plus the fact that when he's in that state, he would even burn her. It hurts. Oh God, it hurts. As time goes on, the pain begins to render Preston more and more unstable. That plus the knowledge that the only way to alleviate it is to kill somebody. At least, that's the only way he's found so far. Not much else has been tried. You're an angel, dear. I don't deserve you. Preston eventually cracks and seeks a victim. Lady Clay follows him into the night, for he was trying to sneak out and keep it from her. Don't come near me. I just killed him. And the pain, Preston? The burning. Does it still burn? No, it subsided. It always does when I pass the contagion on for a while. Then we shouldn't waste any time. Who would you like me to be? Yourself. I want you to be Lady Clayface. I love you. exactly as you are. Oh, isn't that sweet? Quick rush coupling right by the corpse. Lady Clay needs the D. I'm so torn about this moment. On the one hand, yay, people accepting each other as they are. On the other hand, murder and apparently very balled up lust. Preston begins researching again, trying to find some kind of cure for his condition. But he's not having any luck, and he starts to think that maybe he should go back to Arkham, because there at least the doctor said they were trying to find a cure for him. He also feels like he's trapping Lady Clay. You can warp into anyone you like, and nobody would know you weren't an ordinary human being but me. I'm a monster. You can't be seen with me. Can't take me anywhere. It's like I'm your jailer. You don't need that. But Sandra says she needs him more than ever because she's pregnant. Oh, look how happy Preston is. Speaking of Preston, he bursts into that counseling session to grab Graham Etchison, and he'll burn anyone who gets in his way. But Graham volunteers to go with him so no one else gets hurt. Batman is wrapped up by Snake Lady Clay and has no idea what's going on, but he will next issue 27, where we officially meet Cassius. This issue is called Child's Clay. Ugh, well played. Since I've started this playlist, just randomly Clay puns will burst into my mind, and they'll be too late for every video that they should have been in before. The other day in the kitchen, once, twice, 3 times a Clady, but it's too late. A missed opportunity that I shoehorned in here instead. I like the covers both these issues have. That kind of stylized realism. They both make their Clay faces of choice seem menacing, although on this second one, Batman looks a little sketchy. You felt that pun, right? Did you feel it? Batman manages to electrocute off Lady Clay, and the police note that Clayface 3 has taken the same man that the serial killer Abattoir was looking for. But why? The why is because this serial killer has kidnapped their son, who is just there sobbing for mommy and daddy as this madman threatens to stab him with a knife, then proceeds to read diary entries from Lady Clay's diary that he stole when he abducted the child. Couldn't just take her kid? Took her diary too? Just new levels of depravity. So we get even more backstory. The two stole an ultrasound machine, and they see that the baby doesn't look like your typical baby, but a Clay baby. We have to face facts, dear. 2 freaks like us could never have a normal kid, but it doesn't matter what it's like. What's important is that its parents love it. Stop my heart. It's gonna be a special kid, Preston told me. The most special kid in the world. He's whittling toys for their baby? They say that they don't care about the sex of the baby, but begin the name game. Preston suggests Cassius. Cassius? Yeah, you know, Cassius Clay. For those who are missing the joke and wish to partake in the laughter, Cassius Clay is Muhammad Ali's name before he changed it. So they're in on this pun game too. There's no escape. So for those wondering about the name, because some of you noticed it beforehand if you've been following the Claylist, well, this is why, because Clayfaces 3 and 4 are dorks. Dorks in love. So the baby is born, neither male or female, born to thrilled parents. The baby is now seemingly a toddler and also male. This is because the child inherited his mother's shape-shifting abilities and has assumed that form. They never go into how or why. I assume it's probably because the editorial staff really wanted to use the name Cassius. They thought hard about that joke and they wanted to use it. But it's definitely an unmined part of the story with huge potential. Abattoir has Cassius because in Batman 505, after the bus hijacking, he escaped into the forest and apparently in the interim stumbled upon this cave while Clayface 3 and 4 were out for a walk. Saw the baby, stole the baby, left a note with a number to call. She passes out after telling Batman where the rendezvous is with Abattoir, who's already looking outside because Preston is approaching. But Payne also wants revenge because kidnapping kids isn't cool. But Cassius has heard his father and wants to get down to him and breaks out of the bonds that were keeping him in place, just as Batman shows up to stop Payne from burning Abattoir. Oh, come on. Of all the people that he's burned in these issues, this is the person that gets saved. Boo! Daddy, Daddy! Cass, don't move. Stay exactly where you are, son. Fly down, Daddy, fly! No, you can't fly. Stay put. Daddy's coming. See? Like mommy! Fly! Daddy! Batman swoops in and saves Cassius before passing him to Payne to have a brief reunion. This is because he's already captured Lady Clay and he plans to do the same thing to Payne. People know where their cave home is now. There's nowhere for them to go back to. Keep my son out of this. Whatever happens, he won't grow up in an institution, laughed at and despised by so-called decent folks. My son and I walk free. Batman knocks Payne out with gas. Funny, Daddy, funny. Yes, laugh now, child. This joke will wear off over the years. Forget it. It's not my problem. You know who would have made it their problem? Bruce Wayne. Because he cared. So he leaves the child just to be picked up by whatever group and potentially experimented upon, which when we next see Cassius, we learn is exactly what happened. This issue made my heart hurt. I'll admit it. I cried the first time I read it. Embarrassing. We next see Cassius in Batman 550 in 1998, in a story that also introduces the 6th Clayface, and introduces the DEO and Agent Cameron Chase in her first appearance. Chase would get her own comic series about her adventures with the Department of Extranormal Operations, because the X-Files was super popular at the time, and this series is all about that vibe. Issue 550 is written by Doug Mensch, with art by Kelly Jones and J.H. Williams III. The cover right away indicates that this is a Clayface outing and we're dealing with monstrous Clayface, and the Hagen-style look for Clayface. Chasing Clay opens right up with Cassius strapped down in a lab being experimented upon. Though he appears much bigger, mentally he still appears very young, like a child. Although we don't get to hear much from him, he's still asking for mommy and daddy and crying out in pain as they take samples off of him. We actually get another recap of all of the Clayfaces this issue, but we'll talk about that when we talk about Clayface 6. So this piece of Cassius expands and breaks free from its casing and bonds with a doctor who harvested it, transforming him into a clay thing, as the comic calls him, and subsumes his mind. Now the clay thing sets out to perform Cassius's will, in a manner that will be updated for Lady Clay post-rebirth, as we saw in that era. Only her pieces could function autonomously and get new experiences and then return. This clay thing sets out to reach mommy and daddy, while Cassius is left in his cell screaming in pain, as he goes slightly mad when he's separated from pieces of himself. This is the last time we see Cassius proper in this issue. Clay Thing performs all the rest of the actions. Clay Thing comes upon Payne at Arkham Asylum, who thinks it's his son and refers to him as Cassius, but doesn't act like Payne any other way, as he just asks him to free him so that he can purge himself to what the comic calls the melt. Hi 1998. What happened to the man who was begging for his son not to be institutionalized, left on the cutting room floor for body horror? Gotcha. The clay thing has stopped, and we don't see Cassius proper again for a while. Our next big sighting in 2005. This in the series Batman Gotham Knights, as part of the Hush Returns arc, but much later in an arc called The Shape of Things to Come. Cassius is sought out by Hush, who is working with the 8th Clayface, Johnny Williams. And by working with, I mean manipulating. Hush is trying to get the perfect Clayface sample, but he decides that he needs a pure sample, the purest Clayface, which would be Cassius, who, having been formed from 2 other Clayfaces, doesn't have a human component and is pure clay. Cassius is no longer being housed at the DEO, but instead is at Arkham Asylum. For reasons, I don't know, you got villains, just dump them in Arkham. For every 3 villains you bring, you get a cell free. Batman also needs a sample to cure Alfred, who has been infected with a Clayface virus. We'll deal with that when we get to 8. So he goes to talk to Cassius. Cassius now has the mentality of an adult, but is still a soft boy who loves his parents. He also claims that he has a minor aptitude for telepathy that he inherited from his mother, but that would mean that the powers she got from Looker, she passed them down. I think maybe she's the ultimate Clayface. Cassius doesn't want to give a sample, as he says it's a part of him. It's more than just taking a piece, and far more painful than a skin graft. Cassius challenges Batman that if he's serious, let him out. He does, and Cassius goes to attack, but Batman knocks him out with a gas pellet, and for some reason he reverts down to a human form, which I don't know why, because we already established that that is not actually his base form. It was kind of him to make himself easier for Batman to carry. Batman gets the sample he needs, but Cassius awakens as he's going to return him to Arkham, which is just what Hush was waiting for. He was in the wings and he wants samples of his own. He gets them, which drives Cassius into a frenzy. And we get a Clayface fight. Mud fight.
Cassius, I mean you no harm. I just need your help too. Or using me like the other. I'm not going back in there.
Lies where? Nobody cares enough about Cassius, in my opinion. Cassius manages to escape in the fray, but there is one sample left behind that Batman manages to obtain. And Cassius vanishes into the night, and thanks to the numbered system kind of being cast by the wayside, which I made fun of but now miss, now we are left to wonder when we later see Clayfaces, is that Cassius? Or is that Todd Russell, aka Clayface 7? Whether he appears later in issue here or there or not, the tale of Cassius is largely one of wasted potential, also of sadness. The stories he initially appear in spend so much time building up his parents' relationship and their love for their baby and desire just to have a quiet, happy life away from people who would persecute them. In Payne's case, you know, kind of justifiably, a lot of people are dead. But then nothing more is done with that. It's just a small blip in the Knightquest story. And then Cassius is brought back later on as a tool in another story. The definition of Cassius as a pure Clayface, or the purest one as he has no human base, is an interesting one to explore. How does that alter Cassius's perception in relation to the world? What about Cassius's relation to gender and self-presentation? Cassius chooses a male form, and especially at the time of this recording, there are so many stories to be explored with that. On top of that, the power set not only includes shape-shifting, but that breaking off ability, and ability to transform others into Clayfaces through contact and a fusion or evolution of his father's powers. The melt, as it's called, that can now be accomplished telepathically, but that we don't see see Cassius himself do, just the Clay thing. What about his telepathy? How advanced is it? The stories you could tell of him messing with people's minds, taking forms and learning what he needs to through telepathy. You get a glimpse of that in Superman/Batman issue 19 from 2005, when he assumes Batgirl's shape to learn information about Supergirl, only his info is wrong because he chooses the Barbara Gordon form, who would of course at that point be Oracle, which is an instant tip-off for Supergirl. There are so many tales that could be told, and so many directions that could be gone in. Would Cassius be villainous despite his parents' best wishes? This because of the horrifying treatment he received. Would he be good? Could we do some kind of new backstory where he's formed in a lab of some kind out of multiple Clayfaces? What would that do? I want the world where he got the happy childhood, just got to ride that whittled horse. Cassius would be a great legacy villain or hero or just character. You have choices. Come on, Omniverse, Linear Verse, Elseworlds verse, whatever other verse, give me this. We can explore the potential that is Cassius Payne. I'll ignore the confusion. The stories Cassius features heavily in aren't bad. In fact, they're strong outings, but Cassius never gets to truly take center stage. I can't believe Clayface 5 made me cry. Just something about Payne rushing up that ladder to try to get to his son. Just, my heart. We will soldier on, and I must say, I think I may have some shocking opinions in Clayface 6. So get ready, it's gonna get muddy. Now I want to hear your thoughts on Clayface 5. Did Cassius' story devastate you as it did me? What stories would you use this character for? Are you impressed by Preston's whittling skills? Is Lady Clay truly the ultimate Clayface? Share all of your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.